What life-altering things should every human ideally get to experience at least once in their lives? Living single and alone. It's a very specific kind of freedom but a touch of fear. I can do whatever I want. At the same time, if something bad happened, it might be a bit before anyone even noticed. I had never lived alone until I was in my late 30s. I was terrified to live by myself. Thought I would be scared and so lonely all the time. But it turns out that it is the greatest thing ever. I don't know how I will ever be able to live with another person again. I joke that if I ever get remarried we will have to have separate residences. As shit as it is. And I wouldn't wish it upon many people. Heartbreak. I feel like a lot of personal growth can stem from it. It also makes you way more sensitive and understanding of others who are hurting and suffering. Empathy is far more important and powerful than sympathy. Eating healthy food for like 2 months straight. You never realize how shitty you feel if you've been feeling that way literally your entire life. Also helps you realize how insanely addictive sugar, fast food is. Once you go back to it, the cravings kick in immediately. At least in my experience. I've said this before on Reddit and people literally message me saying I'm full of shit. Like, okay, you don't have to do it. Just saying living off pizza and soda can make you feel like garbage. Travel alone doesn't need to be long, but I think it requires a skill to be alone and feel comfortable about it. Not many people take the leap to go and/or don't have the skill. It is very valuable to feel comfortable being alone, being in a crowd for example, being utterly lost or similarly in a hopeless situation, and getting yourself out of it with persistence and endurance. When you hit rock bottom, one of 3 things can happen. You can crash, you can bounce, you can break right through it and fall to an even lower rock bottom. Try to do option 2. A long road trip with friends. It's a bonding experience being in a little metal box with a group of friends for hours at a time, trying to get somewhere together. You'll drive each other crazy. You'll make each other laugh. It's truly a wonderful experience. Go somewhere isolated enough at night that you can see the full skyscape, including the band of the Milky Way. Being with a family member while they pass away. I know, this sounds weird, but I have experienced both and had so much more closure when I was able to be there when my grandmother passed away. When my mom was in hospice and started declining and eventually passed away. The facility couldn't even be bothered to call me until the next day. I lived 10 minutes away, was the POC for all medical decisions and worked my entire life at the time around doing my best to be by her side when she passed. I still feel so cheated and pissed off about it. *** edited. I wanted to thank everyone for their kind words. This comment really blew up. I'm so sorry that some of you have had rough experiences with losing loved ones. But I'm glad that it has sparked a discussion around death and dying. If anyone is having a rough time right now, I'm a good listener. I have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, I was grateful to be with my dad to the very end. Not many people get to go out surrounded by your loved ones. But my dad did. It was a gift. On the other hand, it was honestly traumatizing. I can't explain just how horrific it is to watch your loved one just die. Edit. I wanted to send some love to all of you sharing your experiences, especially those who just recently lost a loved one. Words don't really help, but no, you are not alone. Less than 3. Total isolation. I'm talking traveling out to a remote location far, far away from civilization and far away from anyone else. Just you and the world around you. All alone, and not another soul in sight. It's such a bizarre yet powerful feeling. Here you are, completely free from the constraints of civilization. Free from your obligations. Free from your routines. There's nothing holding you back now except yourself. You're experiencing life at its purest. I went on one hell of a bushwalk not too long ago that took me deep into a forest that very few people have been through. There was a moment where I was sitting on this fallen tree where it hit me just how truly far away and isolated I was. And with that, just how far away all my problems were too. Out here, it was just me and the trees. It really seems to put life back into perspective when you inevitably have to head back in. Re-enter civilization. The juxtaposition is something else. There's a place I go to often to completely switch off. No phones, no contact with the outside world. I love it. It's like a detox. I myself also forgot a phone when gone for a poo. Failure. You'd be surprised how many people constantly have their life fixed to them and never have to fail at anything. Failure allows us to learn coping skills, resilience, problem solving, determination. So many skills that many people today just don't have. Garlic bread. I could eat a very unreasonable amount of garlic bread if given the opportunity. Standing in front of a classroom trying to teach. Friends who teach in the elementary, secondary system have the same complaints as professors. Everyone has a criticism, complaint, or gentle suggestion to improve, but have no idea what is involved in getting all of the regulatory requirements. Getting up in front of a class and ensuring that the ELOs are met in a way that satisfies federal, state and university administrators while also engaging the students. It's getting worse and worse. 2. Working in retail, major city emergency room, police, and fast food. It's always easy to assume we know better, until we work there, and deal with some ignorant people who just want to act a fool with anyone and everyone. I worked at Burger King when I was 15 and in high school. My boss at the time, a great dude, said, "You never know how someone's day is going or what they've been through. So if someone has a bad attitude, just keep smiling and help them along." Now that I'm much older and run a sales division, one always think back to that guy and that comment. And also that job. Make sure to treat your fast food, wait staff, bartenders, and etc. kindly, because you never know how many assholes they've had to put up with to get to you. Stand on top of a mountain. One of my absolute life-changing experiences is hiking a mountain in the fog. Me and a friend hiked a few thousand feet, and when we hit the peak, we had just come over the fog line. There was an old guy at the top with us, and he saw that we were in awe. He pointed to the northeast, see that other mountain range poking out above the clouds. That's Tahoe. Tahoe was 150 miles away, give or take. Something about being exhausted after intense physical exertion, with your best friend, in a surreal landscape, and then having a seemingly impossible vision pointed out to you on top of that, was otherworldly. May I ask which mountain? Of course, it was Mount Diablo in the East SF Bay Area. The feeling of having mastered something. Piano, poetry, writing, some video game, coding, anything really. There is a special self-knowledge that comes from having mastered something that everyone really needs to know. Do we ever really, truly, and completely? I am positive no matter how good I am at something, if I ever am, I will never feel it can't be even better. You can master something without it being impossible to improve. Being debt-free. I was born debt-free. Go into a nursing home and volunteer to sit with some of the loneliest residents. Let them talk. Just listen. You'll learn so much and experience every emotion you know, and some you never felt before. This is also eye-opening if you're in your 20s or 30s. I became a cop in 20s and within a year had the opportunity to serve some elders. Some people get frustrated dealing with dementia patients. And not going to lie, I was one of them, monsieur. At some point, one of the years in my 20s, I had the experience of talking to a woman who seemed okay on the outside but was losing her grip on the inside. She called us about men in her attic but ended up she was hallucinating the monsieur over an hour or two. She led me around the house, which was tastefully appointed and well kept, showing me things of her husband's and pictures of her family. She didn't know how long she'd been alone. but it seemed like just yesterday for her. Based off the clothes and styles of portraits, I think her husband had passed 10 plus years ago. I sat down and talked to her on her sofa and we shared some laughs. Fast forward a few weeks later. She had called again about the men in the attic. I knew it was going to be another visit, so I told dispatch I'd be out of service for a while. When she opened the door, I greeted her by name and she looked at me confused. I asked about how she had been since we last spoke and she became upset because I was lying to her. I tried to make her understand, but her version was the only true version and everything else was fiction. When I got back to my car, I sat down and had a long thought about my current life and state of mental health. I realized that we take every day of consciousness for granted and it can all slip away before we know it. I've used that knowledge and experience to teach my kids to enjoy the time we spend together now, as well as teaching myself to put spending time with my loved ones before anything else. It's hard to do in our busy world, but I want to make sure I have something to remember if I end up like her. Edit. Wow. My first gold. Thank you, stranger. So true. My nan had Alzheimer's and spent her last couple of years in a nursing home. Not everyone living at the home had dementia. Some were just physically disabled and needed the extra care. I've spent countless hours sat with various residents in various stages of mental health, and it's been worth every minute to hear some of the stories they have to tell. Especially as I'm actually disabled myself and require full-time care too. Although I'm lucky enough that I still get to live in my own home with my husband. I have carers here while he's at work. Even though my nan died last year, my mom and I still visit the home to see her and our old friends. They're always so happy to see us. We even arranged a party at the home for what would have been my nan's birthday last year. We had food, drinks, a live musician that sang all the classics from when the residents were young. It was amazing to see them all singing and dancing along, having fun, enjoying the huge spread of food and desserts we brought in. I'm going to suggest to my mom that we do it again this year, as it made my day to see everyone so happy, and my nan would have loved it. Love, not lustful, hormonal and temporary rushes of emotion. Deep, sacrificial, spiritual, hell or high water, to the ends of the earth love. To love someone like that and to be loved like that in return is the highest point of human existence. I would kill and die for my wife without a second thought. She knows this, and I know she would do the same for me. I never really lived until I loved, and specifically, loved like this. Failure, heartache, embarrassment, loss. Without them you can't grow. Complete vulnerability in the company of the person that you love. Letting that person really know you and taking the risky leap of putting yourself, with all of your insecurities, quirks, and naive hopes, in another person's hands. Creation. For most people this will probably mean having a family and raising children. For others, and a large overlap with the child having crowd, this would mean taking some idea, some concept, and turning it into reality. Maybe it's making the video game idea you've had since you were a kid. Maybe it's writing a book, or producing a unique work of art. It could be designing your own home, or inventing something new. We as human beings have an urge to create things, and doing so seems to grant some kind of supreme satisfaction and joy. Whoa, you just made me realize why I have no urge to create children. I create all the damn time. LSD. Maybe not everyone, but most people. Also truly loving touch. / edit. Cheers for the silver and gold mates. You are all beautiful humans. This comment isn't getting enough attention. LSD is truly a life-changing experience and can benefit a person's views towards life immensely. Fighting for one's life in somme for Monsieur. 3 years ago I was in a river for the swim portion of a triathlon. Because of heavy rainfall the week prior, the current was moving incredibly quickly. The race organizers eventually canceled the swim portion of the event, but not until myself and about half the other competitors were already in the water. About halfway through the swim, the current became too much and I was being carried downstream despite my strongest attempts to swim against it. It was at that moment that I was literally swimming for my life. It was terrifying at the moment, but an experience I'm really glad I had. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Nothing like a near-death experience to make you appreciate life just that little bit more. I found quite the opposite. I nearly drowned. I got to the point where I had nothing left. I thought 100,000 thoughts in 1 second. About my friends and family, my regrets, etc. Whatever was going on in my life was no longer my problem. Everything would work out one way or another. I made my peace, and took what would be my last breath, a lung full of water. It seems the universe had other plans. The waves tumbled my head above water as I took that breath. I survived, and I can still be passionate about things. But something about that experience took the edge off. Nothing is life or death important anymore, because I know that my mind will once again make that peace if it needs to. Edit. My first gilding. Thanks for the gold and silver, kind strangers. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.